you have to have something that graphic designers can do between going to Burning Man's.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Front End Fire podcast. We are the weekly show that helps you stay up to date on the latest and the greatest in the front end world. I am your host today, Paige Niedringhaus, and I am joined by my co-hosts Jack Harrington.
Hello.
And TJ Van Tol.
Hey, everybody.
And coming up for you in today's episode, we have some stories about the Tanstack universe expanding again. There is a new framework agnostic component library that's out there for all of you non-React developers. VS Code is hitting version 100, and we have a lightning-packed round of extra news, so stick around for that. So before we get into the news, we have one more plug. We have a special episode coming up later this week with the Apollo CTO, Matt DeBergalis. And if you want to hear about what Apollo is up to and how GraphQL fits into the new AI dev world that we're entering, you should definitely check it out.
And we already recorded the episode, so I can tell you it was a good one. We learned a bit more about his thoughts on GraphQL and how GraphQL fits into modern day front-end development. And yeah, it was really interesting. So you want to check that out.
Wish I could have been there. Unfortunately, my fiber decided to die.
Yeah, Jack's internet
technical
died at like the worst time. But
Right?
happens
Half
to
of
us all.
Portland goes down. Yeah, okay.
all right, to the news.
All right. Jack, would you like to kick us off with news for this week?
Sure. Surprise, surprise. There's yet another Tanstack library coming out. This one's Tanstack DB. And from the name, you might think it's like a Drizzle competitor or something like that. It's not quite that. It's basically kind of a live data syncing engine. So between the front end and the back end, so you're going to use this actually in combination with, like, say, a Drizzle, and then sitting on top of Postgres. But it has some really cool things like real-time syncing, live query, local writes. So if you want to do like the local first thing and then sync later, it's going to handle a lot of that for you. It's basically it is a collaboration with Electric SQL, but it doesn't actually require Electric SQL. So it's really cool. It's pretty early days yet. Not a lot of downloads yet. But it's good to see that the Tanstack extended universe continues to extend.
So is this database agnostic, or what's the compatibility wise? Okay. Any database, any SQL database
from what I can see, it's really not. You could put it on top of like GraphQL if you wanted, right? So it's not necessarily to a database. It's like sitting on top of a data source and then doing syncing and all that. I really have yet to sink my teeth into it to really kind of get a feel. Hey, what do you know? To get a feel for what's actually going on. There's only so much research I can do in a day, and wow, there's a lot going on out there. So yeah, but it will definitely be high on my priority list to do a video on it pretty soon, and I'll be able to kind of really tell you what's going on once I do that.
Yeah, I skimmed it as well, and it's exactly what you say. It can do databases, it can do REST APIs, it can do GraphQL interfaces. So really, it sounds kind of like GraphQL in that it wants to sit on top of anything that you already have and just bring the data in the way that you want it to, which is pretty cool and very relevant to all the different ways now that we can be fetching data.
I could sit on top of MCP. Ooh, I should try that, actually. Yeah. Oh.
Does it
sparking ideas right here?
There you go.
Does it work with Tanstack Query at all? Because it seems like it's kind of adjacent to what Tanstack Query does.
So according to the docs, it builds on top of Tanstack Store and works with and alongside Tanstack Query. So, yeah. So the Tanstack Store stuff is kind of a primitive for doing like client-side store, like a Redux or really like a Jotai or something like that. And then I guess Tanstack Query might be your your communications mechanism, to actually do the fetches, although I'm not quite sure. So, yeah, again, indeed to look into it some more.
Okay.
I mean, every time I look at the Tanstack just website, there's no more stuff that I've never seen before, never heard of. There's Tanstack Ranger, there's Tanstack Store, there's I don't know when Tanner sleeps. I just don't.
Well, okay, so there is a community around this. Tanner, I think, is pretty much full time currently on trying to get the router and done for Tanstack Start and the DaVinci stuff. That's what he's personally doing. But then, there's a lot of people like spearheading projects. Every one of these has like a person who's the owner of it. What I worry about is that they're running out of colors. It's like a rainbow theme on there, and like there's only so many colors under the rainbow, kids. You're gonna start getting into like plaid and paisley here pretty soon.
Yeah, bust out the Crayola box.
Right? Good Lord, yeah.
It's a good problem to have, I guess. It's going to be the whole Tanner universe front to back.
Yeah, I do wonder if like maybe there's some consolidation that could happen here, but we'll see.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome. I'm sure it'll be good. Nothing that bears the Tanstack stamp is not great. So that's very cool. All right. TJ, what do you got for us?
I've got Visual Studio Code V1.100, and
Whoa.
So that is .100. It is not 1.1, so this is their 100th release as part of the one major branch. I don't know when VS Code 2 would actually come out, but they've been sticking with one for a long time. But this was a release that came out on May 8th, so you probably already have this as you listen to this. If not, you can update to get it. There are a couple headlining features of this. One is that their next edit suggestions feature is now on by default. It's on by default at first for insiders, and they said they're gradually rolling it out to everybody. I have it. I don't know if you don't. There's also a setting they call out github.copilot.nexteditsuggestions.enabled. You can turn that on, and you should be able to get it again. And what this feature is, it's they actually abbreviated on their docs to NES for next edit suggestions. So I'll probably do the same, so I don't have to say this all the time. But NES, it's basically like an AI-powered autocomplete that has some UI around it. It's more than just autocomplete because it doesn't exactly always try to complete the thing you're writing, but sometimes it'll be like, I renamed a variable from X to Y, and this model will detect, oh, well, you were using X on line 52, so you're probably going to want to update that. And so it'll show this little indicator that in the kind of like the gutter of your editor that this is its next edit suggestion. That's where it gets its name from. And then you can hit tab to just accept that suggestion or escape to decline it. It's very similar to if you use Cursor. Cursor has a very similar feature as well that works very similarly. And so if you haven't tried it out before, now is probably your chance since it's rolling out to everybody.
I think they did a better job. I mean, it's been around for a little bit, and I think they did a better job on the implementation of it than, or at least the UI of it than Cursor did. Like there's some extra UI that they put in there that I thought was actually like, it really kind of gave you a sense of what it was trying to do. So I thought that was really neat.
Yeah.
I've been using it for a few days now, and I like the UI of it. I find the suggestions themselves aren't as good as Cursor quite yet. It's been a little hit or miss. Or Cursor was a little bit smarter about anticipating what I'd want to do next, whereas VS Code is kind of all over the place. It's not bad, but it's not quite as sharp.
And I wonder if some of that is because if you work with Cursor for a little while, like it starts to learn your patterns and stuff personally. And so maybe it's just more experience with you. And maybe, if you give VS Code some more time, it'll kind of come up to speed with your particular writing styles. So
Yeah,
I guess we'll see.
Yeah, it is for the most part. It's been on for me as well. And it's been for the most part useful. Sometimes it just doesn't quite figure it out. But, like you were saying, if you change a variable name or if you start doing some sort of like formatting, it will recognize other places pretty quickly that should follow that same kind of convention or be renamed or things like that. So yeah, it's pretty good.
It's super great for doing that Tailwind stuff where it's like you change like, ML4 to ML2 or something like that. And it's like, oh, here's like 8 other places where you do that. You want to do the same? Yes, absolutely. I want to do that. Yeah.
Nice.
So then the other change they made was related to instruction files and prompt files. Mm-hmm. So I thought these are features that have existed before in VS Code, but they quote align the implementation and usage of these two concepts. So I thought I'd go over them real quick for people that aren't familiar and talk about what's new. So the first of these instruction files, these are the ones that you're probably more likely to know or to have used. These are custom instructions or rules to provide to LLMs. This is similar to cursor rules if you've used this in Cursor before. It's just a way of providing guidelines and context to models in a markdown file. So you could tell it, our code standards are this, or always make sure to do this, and put that in the markdown file, and the models will pick this up and use it as part of every chat request. So they're kind of standardizing on where these files are going to live and what they're going to be called. So by default, you place these files in your user profile or in a project in a .github/instructions folder, and then you name them with a whatever .instructions.markdown name for them. So when I tested this out this morning, I created a file called default.instructions.markdown. I put it in my .github/instructions folder, and then I verified that the chat interface picked up on it correctly, and it did. And then similarly, they also made it so you can give it front matter. So these are markdown files, and front matter is the bit of like metadata that you can put at the top of a markdown file. And you can tell it what file types it should apply to. Ooh. So for example, you could create a typescript.instructions.md, and then at the top you could say apply to : star.ts. And then basically GitHub Copilot will know, hey, these instructions only apply that when I'm looking at TypeScript files. Yeah. And so that's a nice little thing. And I think it makes it a little easier to organize these files, because oftentimes you do want different instructions based off file types. So I think it's a nice little change.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Put in there, use any for everything.
Yeah, exactly. And then the second type of file are prompts. Prompts are less likely to have used. I haven't had a use for them quite yet, but they are standalone chat requests that include the prompt text and the chat mode and the tools to use. So this is if you wanted to you had some process that you do in a reusable way through your chat interface. And the two examples they cite are creating a front-end component or to perform a security review. And part of their standardization, this goes in a .github/prompts folder, and then you create a .prompt.markdown file. There's also front matter that you can apply to these prompts. And the main thing for these are you can tell it a list of tools that you want to be able to use. And tools are the concept of VS Code has a bunch of these that are built in. So you can do things like they have a fetch tool. So you can say #fetch and then grab a URL and then use that as part of your prompt. So there's some cool things you can potentially do in there. But the big thing behind this release was just sort of standardizing what these things are called, where they go, because these have been experimental features, and they're kind of starting to iron these down in theory to probably make them stable features here in the next release or two.
I love that. I think that that's great, because that is something that I think a lot of people have been struggling with, is where do I put the documentation so that my agents and my AI assistants kind of understand, what kind of rules I like and what kind of styling we use and what kind of capitalization or cases we use for different things. So I've seen it like spread out across repos, which I hate. I don't want my README files all over the place. I want them in one single place. So putting it all inside of the GitHub folder that already probably exists, because you do, CI/CD through GitHub, or you do whatever workflows and actions. I think that's a great place for it. And hopefully other, companies or people that are doing agent type stuff will either fall in line or have something really similar where it just kind of consolidates everything into a single place where kind of all the information that you need is housed.
Yeah, and then the last little bits of this release are, more AI stuff. If you're not noticing, yet again the theme of these releases is around AI. So there are a variety of MCP changes that they've made, just various improvements. They talk about how they've improved the speed of the chat experience, the summary. So occasionally the chat will kind of summarize so that it can include more in its context as it keeps going, and you might see some messages around that. But a very AI-focused release yet again, but a bunch of good stuff. So, make sure you've updated your VS Code and try these out.
Very
Exciting.
cool. All right. So my news for this week is about a new UI component library that is agnostic of everything. So ShadCN has been around for a while, and React developers really love it. Tailwind has taken over as kind of the winning CSS for a lot of developers and a lot of projects. But if you want kind of the benefits of ShadCN and you don't write React, there's not really a lot of options out there. So now we have base coat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's a great name for it, and basically it says, I will take all of the Tailwind utility classes that you know and love, and I will take the ShadCN components that you also like using that kind of wrap that stuff up and put it out of the way, but I won't use any of the React underpinnings that make it only compatible with React. So you have HTML, you have Tailwind, you have no runtime for JavaScript beyond a little bit of Alpine JS for some components that need it, like maybe modals or dialogues that have just a little bit of interactivity, but not a lot. And you can extend it. You can use your own Tailwind styles and tweak their Tailwind config. You can use CSS variables. You can use it with ShadCN UI themes if you have those. And it just says it works with HTML, Flask, Rails, Laravel, whatever you have, it claims it can work with it.
This is an amazing idea, just because I mean, we're fans of ShadCN on this show, but we're also largely React people, and there are definitely contexts where I want to use it, or I want a really great just drop-in UI component situation where I'm not using React. And so I think this is a great idea. I've not tried it yet, so I don't know how well it works, but just the idea itself is really good.
Just such good stuff coming out, to be honest. It's like every time I hear one of these things, it's like, oh, I want to go check into that. Oh, that sounds good. And it's just so much.
Yeah. It's nice to see that React is not the only thing that's getting a lot of work and a lot of love from the community. Everybody else is trying to take good ideas and build them into their own frameworks or make them agnostic, so anybody using anything can also benefit from it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they follow it on with the ShadCN model of being able to have like external components that you can kind of bring it in. I have to go check that out.
Cool. Well, I think that is our main news for the week. So I know we have a lot of bonus news. So who would like to start the bonus news?
I can take the first pass at this. So the first bit of news is that Google has a new logo, in case you are not aware, or maybe it has one, it's getting one, it's unclear. And I saw this heading and I thought like, oh man, I'm excited for this. And then I saw it, and all it is they're just changing like the gradient in their logo a little bit. They went from the G, so we're talking about the G logo for Google that you've probably seen as like an app icon or whatever. And before it would have segments of rainbow colors, and now it just has like a gradient that like they blend into each other. And that is it. That's
Hey, but, listen, you have to have something that graphic designers can do between going to Burning Man's.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, exactly.
They gotta have something.
I mean, it had been 9 years, so right, that
what?
took 9 years. Yeah, that logo.
That is a long time.
Wow, God, I remember when that came out. Oh my God.
Yep, 9 years. So
9 years.
They had 9
time.
Burning Mans to think about it, and that's what they came up with.
Yeah.
Oh man.
The other Google news, so this is a second bonus item, is they are apparently testing a, quote, AI mode for Google.com. And so in their tests, they're using it to replace the I'm feeling lucky button. So, which would be big because that button's been on Google for longer than 9 years. It's basically been there to the original Google. So it'd be a pretty massive change. And they're unclear on what AI mode actually is. It's who knows exactly what it's going to do, but they're apparently testing it out as like a second, like an alternate way of using Google. And so I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, come on. I mean, you can't kill everything with AI. Really? Did anybody ever use? No. I don't think I've used maybe the I'm lucky button once in my whole life just to see.
Yeah.
Am I lucky? I don't know. It's like, yeah. Like, come on.
I'd love to know their analytics on that. Like, how many people actually use the thing, and then like how many people purposefully use the thing? Because at Google scales, a certain number of people will just click it just because. But I don't know why. I don't know.
And supposedly it's just the top hit, right? I mean, I thought that was yeah.
I think so.
I don't know how it works, actually.
Yeah. At least back in the day, it was just the top hit. Which nowadays is like always a sponsored ad. It's always like 3 different sponsored ads before you even get to any results. Okay. So I've got some bonus news this week. There's a new site out there called JustFNUseHTML.com. And, it's a little bit of satirical. It's certainly incredibly profane. But, here's some little bits of it. The web was doing just fine before your bloated frameworks crawled out of the sewer. That's basically the whole thing. But it's pretty funny because it's basically it's a demo for HTML and just straight up HTML with, CSS or whatever. And it does a pretty good job of showing just how far HTML comes in terms of everything that you can do with it, right? The web platform has gone really far. So if you're into this sort of thing, it's great. There was, I think, a couple of, like, when responsive first started coming out, there was another site that was like, hey, dummy, your site is already responsive. You don't have to do anything. There's none of this breakpoints and stuff. You just it just responds, kind of thing. I think these are kind of fun. And so go check it out. We'll leave a link in the show notes.
Yeah.
I think this is the logical pushback that happens once things reach a certain level of complexity that somebody points out, like, let's take a step back. Maybe you don't need all of these crazy tools to build with. You can really simplify it.
He does take a pot shot at like hydration errors. I don't know what it is, but like hydration errors seem to like really piss people off. Like it's one of those things you like uniquely, like RSCs and hydration errors really piss people off.
I get it. They're so hard to debug. Or at least like recently they've made it better, but like in the past, like early days of Next, you get a hydration error and it would just pop up this cryptic thing that was almost impossible to track down. So I kind of get it.
Yeah.
It is very aggressive, though. So if you're not a fan of that kind of tone, probably steer clear of this.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Or, just have ChatGPT, read it for you or, read it and then give you a summary in
there you go.
Non-profanity.
Cool. Okay, so I've got a couple of them. Parcel, which we like to talk about as one of the new favorite bundlers that everybody likes, has jumped on the Rust bandwagon. They've not rewritten themselves entirely in Rust. They've just rewritten part of themselves in Rust. So they have a new transformer and minifier for HTML and SVGs that uses Rust and browser-grade components from both Firefox and Servo. Never heard of Servo before, but apparently I think that's more of like the SVG portion of it. But they say that they have reduced the number of NPM dependencies by 25% and reduced the installed node module size by 45%. So that's pretty good savings, I would say.
Yeah, and I think we're probably getting to this similar to our previous just FNUs HTML. Like there was a period where everybody wrote everything in Rust, And then there was like a pushback against the Rust a little bit. And I think now we're arriving in a world where it's like, yeah, maybe it's just use the right tool for the right job. So like I get the sense that HTML minification, for example, probably would be really darn fast in Rust, and because it's an isolated task that you could just spit at some high performance code, and maybe the future is kind of mixing and matching for whatever makes the most sense.
Yeah, some project went like did the Rust thing and then actually came back to TypeScript. I think we did a story on this a couple months ago, and basically saying like it's really hard to interface, TypeScript with Rust, and if you're going to be in the TypeScript ecosystem, like people are going to want to extend your thing, and so not being able to you actually use TypeScript to extend it, they're going to have to like go to Rust, So, yeah, it better be really good to go to Rust.
And the one other thing that I have, which is not necessarily web dev related, but it's just kind of funny, is that HBO Max, which we all knew, is going back to HBO Max after 2 years of being just Max. They're reversing course.
So ridiculous. I mean, are they going to go back to the HBO Max app now too? I guess they are. They have to be.
They are, yeah.
Oh, good Lord.
I mean, it'll be the same app, but they'll just rename it again and give it back. I don't know if it'll be the same logo or if they'll workshop a new one, but
we complain endlessly about these awful streaming apps on this show, but like, it's not as bad as Paramount is clearly the F of streaming apps. HBO Max is like a kind of C, maybe.
Yeah. That feels right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but apparently, according to the article that I read, they have gone through, I think, 4 different names in the past 9 years. So they've been, I think, HBO Prime and HBO Go and HBO Max.
Oh,
and
HBO Go,
Max.
right.
And now we're back to HBO Max again.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
What?
Nobody cares at HBO, really. Just stop.
One take that I saw that I kind of agree with. So Jeff Atwood behind Daring Fireball, his take on this was we shouldn't judge this decision because the HBO Max was a better name anyways. We should judge the decision to move away from HBO Max to just go by Max. I think I agree with that. Like, I don't know why you'd take like an extremely popular, well-known name out of your brand name that was to replace it with a 3-letter, extremely ungoogleable word. It was bonkers decision. So in a way, this decision actually makes some sense to me. It's just the previous one is the one that's insane.
Fair enough, but like you're just like you have to go and install apps, right, and then re-log in, and every one of those times, that's a barrier to entry to folks, and a choice and a point at which they say, am I really getting money?
Yeah.
Am I really getting value for my money here?
I'm paying for this.
I'm paying
there will
for
be
this?
some amount of people that
maybe I shouldn't. They're jerking me around here, like making me do work.
Yeah. Well, and just I agree with you, TJ. Like, the most memorable thing about HBO has always been the HBO. It's not the Max. I think we still kept calling it HBO Max even when it changed names because nobody knew what you were referring to otherwise. So.
Yep, same. Like if we were doing it, we'd say, do you want to watch this on HBO? And we'd be referring to
HBO.
Max because
right, it's just HBO. Like, I don't even know why you need the Max. Like, it's home box office.
Yeah,
like,
it could just be the HBO app, honestly. Like,
right? That's exactly. You got a name that's unique and marketable and branded around 3 letters.
Yeah, and it's had decades to
welcome.
Has a history, decades of great television that people know and associate with great television.
Why would you do anything else? Like, it's a 3-letter acronym that people know. Just what the heck? Insane.
Yeah. So stay tuned. That will be back this summer, and you'll have to probably download the app and log in again.
Well, they better have some really good content to make me do that.
For sure. All right. I think that is going to wrap up our extra news for this week.
I think so.
Sounds good.
Cool. All right. We do not have a fire starter, so let's talk about what's making us happy. Okay, TJ, what's making you happy this week?
Ludington, Michigan is making me happy. So we had a kidless week here because the kids were on a school trip, and so
Whoa, that's awesome.
we decided to make a short trip out to Ludington, Michigan, and really it my pick for anybody listening is not that specific city, but just the entire coast, the west coast of Michigan, up all the way to the northern tip of Michigan is absolutely gorgeous. There are plenty of places where there's great beaches. It's great weather, especially for the summer. It's really nice in Michigan, and we had a great time. We did a lot of walking. There's a lot of lighthouses on that coast because, believe it or not, there used to be a whole ton of shipwrecks on Lake Michigan and the Great Lakes in general.
Oh, I remember the song.
Back in the day. Yeah, exactly. So there are tons of different lighthouses all up and down the coast as well. So those are some of the funner things to see. So we did that this last few days, and I don't know, we had a blast. That entire area of Michigan is just gorgeous, though, if you ever get the chance.
Very cool. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, day trips are fun to kind of see the stuff that's nearby, but just a little bit farther than you want to drive on a regular day. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. It was cool little like cafes and things.
Yep, we stopped at a couple different coffee places,
Nice.
and I worked throughout, so this was like,
Oh,
I never got the chance of. Well, I did it on purpose though because I kind of missed the point in my life where I would have had the chance to kind of be like a digital nomad type of person, and it wasn't because it just wasn't an option 20 years ago. Like that just straight up did not exist. It was not feasibly possible, and then I had kids and whatever. It didn't really become a chance. And so I tried it out working from coffee shops, working from the little bed and breakfast we had. And then, went out, but middle of the day would go out to go out for lunch and then go for a walk at the end of the day. And yeah, it was fun.
sounds very civilized. I love it.
That's awesome. Jack, what's making you happy this week?
The May Basho 2025. So I am weirdly a huge sumo fan. It's started a long time ago. I went to go visit my sister, who was a doctor at the Yokosuka Naval Base in Japan, and she and her husband and my wife and I went out to go see a day of the Basho in Tokyo, and it was a blast. And so we really got into watching sumo back in the Bay Area, and turns out now you can watch sumo on YouTube. And the May 2025 Basho is running right now. It's 15 days of matches. These guys, like they go in one match a day, against each other, kind of thing. And so it's great. And actually there's a lot of drama around this particular Basho. The Yokozuna is now 2-2, I think. And I haven't seen what he did today. But it's really cool. And it's very easy to engage in. It's great color commentary on it is hilarious. And the post-fight the talk is hilarious. So it's great. It's very fun.
On YouTube, are you watching like an English broadcast of it?
Yeah.
Or okay.
It's like the Japanese version of PBS, but with the English voiceover.
Oh, okay. So English voiceover, but Japanese hosts.
Yeah. And like a whole day of a basho, they condense into 27 minutes. So it's very, it's very fast. When you actually go to the event, there is each match probably takes like 5 minutes, but they only take maybe 30 seconds. But it's a lot of posturing, and they're kind of like sizing each other up and this sort of thing. I mean, you're talking about like dudes who are like pushing, 350 is not a problem. Like slamming into each other like you would not believe. Like it is pretty intense.
That sounds really fun, actually.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I'll put some links in the description.
Nice. All right. So what's making me happy this week is a new fantasy series that I have been reading. It's called Crescent City Series, and the first book that I just finished is The House of Earth and Blood. I think that was the first one. There's 3 that I know of. And if you like fantasy in terms of like there's angels and demons and mer people and shapeshifters and humans, because you got to have some humans thrown in there in the mix.
Oh, yeah.
But there's that. It's a modern city, so it's set in like kind of what sounds like almost like a New York or something along those lines. They have cell phones. They have plenty of just technology in general, as well as magic. And it's written by the same woman who wrote the Court of Thorns and Roses series, which has been immensely popular recently. I think that she wrote these before A Court of Thorns and Roses, but I'm not 100% sure. But it's really well written. It's really fun because there's a mystery involved of like trying to figure out, how these crimes keep happening. There's lots of magic. There's lots of different interactions with all these different types of magical creatures and humans and things like that. So it was a really good read, and the other 2 books are out, so I have them, and I'm excited to get started on the second and third and see if it picks up where it left off.
It's very funny you bring this up, Paige, because I've also read the first book because my wife is a huge fan of this series, and that book has the most wild twist, and it's like an early twist in almost any book I've ever read. It's just
wow, okay,
just kind of like hits you blindsidingly. It's kind of crazy, but yeah, it was a good read. I've not read the second or the third one yet, but my wife gives this one a high recommendation, and also I know there's some crossover between the other books. Like there's some characters that. Like I don't know the details, but I think there's some crossover between the book series.
Cool.
They're gonna run out of names. The namespace of like crowns, thorns, swords. Roses, mist. It's all certain point.
Yeah, I
also
also
to
feel
expand the namespace a little bit.
I also think it's becoming a trend to have these books where they just throw in multiple of these mythical creatures. And it's kind of like Twilight sort of started this with vampires and werewolves. Maybe it didn't start it. There's probably something else too. But now there's all these books where it's like, oh, there's vampires, there's werewolves, there's fae, there's angels, there's demons. They're all here. And I don't know. I mean, it kind of works because you get... instead of creating up new species that you have to explain to people, like everybody knows what a vampire is and a werewolf.
Yeah.
So gives you
some
something
minor variations on the form, but yeah,
Yeah.
Drink your blood. That's right.
Yeah. Well, and
Speaking
the
of
latest.
that,
Go ahead.
Speaking of that, if you get a chance, I think Sinners is being re-released on IMAX, and I'm actually tempted to go see it again. It was so good.
I don't know if I'm ever going to bring I don't know if my wife will ever see it. She doesn't like scary or anything remotely scary in terms of a movie. So
it's really 2/3 of a music movie, to be honest. Like the full first 2/3 is like Purple Rain, and it's really good. And then the last third is the blood sucking stuff, and it's not even that gory. It's fine.
Just pitch it that way, TJ. It'll be
There
fine.
you go. Yeah.
Are there jump scares though, or like creepy dark scenes? Those are
maybe one. No, not really. Yeah.
One might be too much though. So
okay. There you go.
We'll see. Well, I think that is going to wrap us up for this episode of Front End Fire. So thank you, as always, to our sponsor, the Blue Collar Coder channel on YouTube. If you want to come and hang out with us, we're in our own Discord. We have our website. We're on YouTube, LinkedIn, X, Blue Sky, you name it. We're probably around. So you'll be able to find us for sure.
Exactly.
So thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Yeah.
See you
Bye,
next week.
everybody.